Hey, good evening if you're watching live. Welcome to episode 182 of About the Cards podcast, live tonight on YouTube. As always, with not Stefan. Does one of you guys have it playing in the background? I'm hearing double. Sorry.
I got nothing in the background.
Okay. So Steph had to hop out late. He's not feeling good. Too much Whataburger. His tummy was upset. So he hopped in bed with his Build-A-Bear, and he's gonna have a nice night. So hobby icon Chris Harris at Stale Gum, Baseball Cardpedia hopped in last minute. Definitely appreciate you stepping in for Steph.
Yeah, I guess this means I'm like what David Brenner was to the old Tonight Show.
That's right.
I'm to you guys. I'm that guy 15 minutes away. You can call up and pinch hit at a moment's notice. So
I definitely appreciate, especially since it was like super last minute. I got the call at 4:00, like, "Hey, I'm not coming on." It's like, seriously? So I've never produced a show before. So good luck, everybody out there. I'm Ben Wilson at Our Trading Cards. We're a podcast by collectors for collectors. We hope to bring you a smart, insightful podcast discussing trading card collecting. All cards tell a story. What stories do your cards tell? We're live every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific, 10 Central on YouTube. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at About the Cards. We're available as a podcast everywhere you can find a podcast. Quick announcement, next week, About the Cards, we plan to have Joey Shiver, Dud Mentality, on with us. We're going to be doing a review of the 2021 hobby. Please let us know what some of your favorite releases were, favorite cards, best About the Cards episode, guest, all of that fun stuff. We'd love to feature some of your thoughts on the show next week as we cover some of that ourselves, especially if you have anything basketball and football related. That would definitely help us, since Steph and I don't personally collect those. So yeah, if you have any input, let's do that. Then we'd like to welcome guest host Dewey Lund at Dirty Deeds 529. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Doing good. What's up with the Dirty Deeds 529?
Yeah, I used to have my own podcast, so I was doing what you guys are doing. I did it on YouTube for quite a few years, and I guess you could say my channel got controversial, and they ended up YouTube kicked me off. So I tried to restart it, but it's pretty hard to restart a channel when you have 10,000 subscribers and then you get kicked off, and then trying to restart that's pretty hard. So
no, absolutely. I was going to get into that here shortly. Steph and I know that you've been listening and supporting us for a long time. You've been one of our very loyal friends, and it's been a long time trying to get you on, and I'm glad we were finally able to do that tonight. First off, we appreciate all the support. Please tell our listeners about your collecting story. How'd you get started? Where are you now with your PC? What do you collect? All that fun stuff.
Yeah, I started collecting probably in 1990 is probably the first set I can remember putting together. It was 89, 90 hoops basketball. And I've built every hoops set from 1990 to 2000, basically. I've got them all set in my closet here. I've just been collecting throughout the years. I never really stopped. You hear a lot of guys say they stopped. I didn't. I definitely slowed down when I obviously went to high school and stuff like that. But I've kind of always just collected. And, my grandpa, when I was a kid, I remember him showing me those 1961 Fleer cards, and we were going through a Beckett guide. And, this particular card, I remember this card when I was probably 8 years old, and my grandpa was showing it to me. And back then, I remember that card was $324 with an arrow going up. And, I was just hooked, and I just fell in love with it. And so I did basketball pretty much, from the 90s all the way up to probably 2005. And then I got pretty heavy into baseball, and I pretty much just do baseball and vintage basketball now.
Nice. Now, you mentioned your podcast. About how long did it last? What were your, is hobby related? So what did that look like? Was it something you did weekly, daily? How long would it run?
Yeah, no, we did it, pretty much it wasn't hobby related at all. We did 2 episodes pretty much every week. And we did a majority of topics. It just kind of whatever was kind of going on, like within that week, national news, whatever it could be. And then I raced dirt bikes my whole life. And, the reason I got booted off was because one of my buddies, he broke some bones, and, he was talking about painkillers and all that. Well, he found this plant called kratom. I'm sure you've heard of kratom. It's just a plant, you can buy it. And it basically got him off of opioids. And so we kind of started telling people, I've never been in any of that, but if you ever, got pain pills, go to this. It might be able to help you get away from those things. Well, they said we were pushing drugs, I guess, but I mean, it's legal. It's legal here. They can go right down the street and buy it. Maverick sells it at the gas station. So
you get into certain things like that, especially political topics on Twitter and things. It's really easy for them to ban you for the optics of what it might look like, not necessarily what the intent is. And especially like Facebook. I mean, I've mentioned this before, like on Twitter. I mean, I caught a 30-day ban because I was talking with high school friends about trying to lose weight, and I referred to myself as a fat man, not overweight. And they're like, you can't call somebody fat. That's hate. And I'm like, first off, I was calling myself that, which is not an inaccurate description of myself. If we're just talking about height and BMI and stuff like that, I am overweight, but because I said the word fat, so yeah, it's definitely, you get into politics and certain things, it's very easy for these social media algorithms to catch it. And, unfortunately, so yeah, no, that sucks. But hey, if you ever want to start again, yeah, I'm sure.
I still got the equipment.
Yeah.
It's just hard. You get 10,000 subscribers. I mean, hell, we got to a point where we actually had a sponsor, and I was actually getting AdSense revenue from YouTube, and it blew up faster than I thought it would. But I think the big issue is obviously creating a controversial topic. It's not a pharmaceutical drug that's, regulated by the FDA, and they didn't like it. I mean, they didn't even give me it was crazy because I got my first strike. By the time I got that email that I got a strike on my account, within 24 hours, my account had been locked out. So I couldn't even appeal my first strike before they already shut my channel down. So then you try to restart it. And by then it's so hard to go back and try to get all those subs. You kind of lose interest in it.
No, I mean, that's really what it comes down to, is if you have to start over from scratch, it's no matter what part of life it is, right? It doesn't have to be a podcast, but when you go through a divorce and it's like, man, I got to start over and rebuild credit. And yeah, it can be tough. And, a lot of our friends have lost collections due to, different natural disasters and whatnot, or had to sell parts of their collection or all of their collection to cover medical bills. And makes it really difficult when what you had. You're starting over at zero, the first comic book, the first baseball card, all over again. And if I ever had to sell, 100% honest, if I had to sell out of desperation because I had to pay for something, I'm done. If I'm starting to sell, I'm selling it all, and I'm not starting over. It'd just be too devastating, too challenging.
Yeah.
So as a vintage collector, how do you see the Fanatics takeover affecting the secondary market for vintage?
I don't think Fanatics is going to have any effect as far as vintage goes, to be honest with you. I think Fanatics is going to stick with what they're going to try to push, which will be their own product. I think Fanatics is going to really try to push PSA. I have no doubt that they're going to combine forces with probably SGC. I know that they've got a parent company. I think one of their parent companies actually owns SGC, is what I've heard. But I don't think they'll affect vintage at all. If anything, I think they're going to make vintage stronger, in my opinion, because I think that they've got a big acquisition that they've just done. They've got a lot of money that they've got to come up with, and I think they're going to print the hell out of this wax.
But that does affect the secondary on vintage, because it's either going to push more people.
Oh, I mean, well, yeah. I mean, maybe increase the value of my vintage, but as far as I don't know. But there's a lot of guys, when I show, I have a fully graded 1961 Fleer set done. It's done. It took me 5 years to do this set, But when I show that to people, a lot of people don't care. These newer collectors, they don't give a damn about it. They want that modern stuff. They don't care about this stuff.
It's not shiny enough.
Not shiny, but
there's no Optichrome.
Yeah.
Yeah,
this is Jerry West guy.
Not Optichrome. Yeah, I see.
He's not Giannis.
Yeah, it's not Giannis. It's not LeBron or whatever. Like when I see this, it's funny because I see a lot of guys posting these cards, and this card right here is a $5,000 card. And these guys are posting. I don't know. I'm just not a modern guy. I'll leave it at that. I don't want to make any.
I love the "Who is Jerry West" comment. As they're wearing their NBA gear, they probably have no idea the irony of not knowing who West is.
I mean, these two guys right here are probably the most iconic basketball players of all time.
Yeah.
Top 10. You know, and people have no idea who they are, but these guys will always hold value. While Giannis might break his knee next year, and he won't be worth anything.
You know, the interesting part about Fanatics taking over is that, you know, we there's so much unknown, and there's so much in our own personal collections that if we do collect modern, you know, you start printing a bunch of crap that we don't want, and Topps flagship goes away, and all of this other stuff that we're accustomed to collecting. Yeah, I've got plenty of old Ace stuff I can pivot to immediately, as so many collectors in their own collections probably could. I'll just go fill in all the holes that I've never had time or you know, the interest in doing, because I'm so focused on the stuff coming out now. I think a lot of, and it would affect it either up or down. Who knows how it would affect the pricing, but I can definitely foresee Fanatics pissing enough people off, not intentionally, just the direction of the hobby in general, upsetting enough collectors to where it's like, hey, I'll just go buy the stuff that's already been made. You know, I don't need to look forward to any checklist moving forward, release calendars. I'm done. You know, it's definitely something interesting. Now, a conversation that came up, I believe it was Suze's card chat a week or two ago. She had asked a question, if I'm not mistaken, about how do you define the word vintage as it pertains to the hobby? You know, we were talking a little bit before the show. If I said I collect vintage, Dewey, you collect vintage, what does that mean? The argument before we get into the conversation was, you know, in the antique world, vintage is a moving date. Every year that goes off the calendar, vintage changes. So in other words, if it's 30 plus years in the year 2050, the cards that are being printed currently would become vintage. My counter argument is that it's an era defined by a specific start and end date. So Dewey, how do you define vintage, and how does that fit into your PC personally?
You know, we talked about this a little bit earlier, but to me, vintage is pretty much 1969, and that's kind of pushing it for me. But it's the 50s and 60s era, and the reason I like that era is, or even, you know, pre-war 1945. Obviously, that is vintage. But the reason I like that is because it's more scarce. Scarcity to me is vintage, because, you know, a lot of the times, you know, like I know for a fact, a lot of these vintage cards that I have here, before I had a lot of these graded, they had gum stains on the back of them. So I know they were pulled out of bubble gum back in the 60s, right? And a lot of these cards were thrown away, thrown in the trash, whatever it might be, because a lot of guys didn't save that kind of stuff. And so the rarity and scarcity, along with the time era, the 60s to me, and the 50s, that to me is vintage. That's how I consider vintage. I don't consider 70s vintage. Maybe some people do, and you know, they can make an argument for it, and that's fine. That's their opinion. Me personally, it's got to be 50s, 60s, or 40s. 50s.
So it's not a moving timeline. As the years and the calendar goes, vintage doesn't become the next year up.
No, because for me, the scarcity's not there once you start getting up in the newer years.
Chris, what are your thoughts on vintage as an era versus a...
The industry standard has always been, or at least as I've perceived it, as 1980, 1981 kind of being the cutoff year. That was 1980 was the last year Topps had a monopoly on baseball cards. 81, you saw Fleer and Donruss come in. But you take a look at that era around 1980, you take two products, like 1975 Topps baseball and 1984 Donruss baseball. These are two products that have a lot in common with each other. They're both 660 card flagship sets, but under that old dynamic, 75 Topps is considered vintage, but is it really vintage? And 84 Donruss, on the other hand, is considered a quote-unquote modern set, but is it really modern? Does it really have a lot in common with, say, 2015 Topps or something like that? No. And what I think we should do is that we in the in cards should probably take a page of what comic books have done. And instead of making it a vintage modern binary, we have eras and try and define what eras are. So in comic books, you have Golden Age, Silver Age, Bronze Age, and I don't know what they call current comic books. I don't call it comic books, but maybe we need to do something like that. So you have pre-war cards, post-war cards, 70s and 80s cards, junk wax era cards. Maybe we need to think of, instead of this I don't know what the word I'm looking for, this non-ubiquitous term of vintage. Maybe instead we ought to look at it differently. What do you guys think of that?
Being right in the middle of that argument, debate, conversation the other day, I was trying to explain like historical eras, vintage, as far as it pertains to the hobby, how I've always defined it, had a beginning and an end. We can move the goalpost a little bit if you want to, say pre-war is pre-war. So therefore, vintage started in 1946 and it ran through. Do we want to call it 1969? Do we want to? I was always saying 1979. The 80s began the junk wax era, and then ended around 94, 95, and then you had the modern era that ran from 95-ish to 2010, 2011. Now you have this ultra modern or breaker era. Again, much like oldies music, right?
Yeah.
Oldies music, as I grew up, was always the 50s and the 60s. And then you'd get some 70s in there as well. People like Stevie Wonder and things that kind of crossed over that decade. But then you'd have the disco era. So anything before the disco era would be oldies. 1985 hair music isn't oldies. Backstreet Boys, now that it's, pushing 30 years old, isn't oldies. It's the boy band era, or that bubblegum pop era, or whatever you want to call these different eras. But that's how vintage was always defined, as far as I understand. And a lot of people agree, especially when you started to look through the thread. Most people had right around 1970, 1980 as the end of vintage. But the bottom line was it was a defined era, a period of time, not something that moves as the calendar goes like it does. And I think that's where it gets a little convoluted, just like the word investing. By definition, cards are investments. By definition, if you go based on the Webster only, therefore anything is. If you can make money, it's an investment, and that's just not true. So much more gray area. It's not as black and white, much like vintage is, often considered 30 plus years, period, end of discussion. Oldies music, 30 plus years. It's that's just not the way it is.
I don't know if he's listening or not, but I know Rich Klein is, in addition to being probably the smartest man I've ever known about baseball cards, is a bit of a scholar on oldies radio. And I remember when oldies radio first became a thing back in like the 80s. These stations would play like songs from the 50s and 60s, and exactly like what you said, Ben. They would throw in maybe a early 70s song every once in a while. But as time has worn on, many of these same stations that still have an oldies format no longer really play 50s and 60s music. They play 70s, 80s, and are even starting to get into the 90s. So oldies radio, vintage cards, it's kind of a non-ubiquitous definition of that. It's almost like moving the goalpost every year. So maybe we do need to start thinking about eras of cards differently than just that.
So here's the thing, right? And the only way I see this ever becoming like maybe solidified is like when you look at Major League Baseball, right? Major League Baseball has a Hall of Fame. They have Hall of Fame players, right? They're recognized by Major League Baseball as Hall of Fame players. The thing with sports cards is we don't have any regulatory agencies regulating what is what, right? And so it's just an opinion. We don't have any governing body saying this is considered vintage, this is considered modern, whatever it might be. Even PSA thinks that they do that already, right? Because they have their quote unquote whatever terms for what they're charging you. But until we see it like a regulatory body identifying something and it's on the books, it's always just going to be a matter of opinion.
And even still, even if you had somebody that came in tomorrow, something similar to the SEC, and they're like, hey, we're now the governing body, we're going to call it PSA, and they're like, vintage is this, the hobby is still going to define it the way it does. Just like rookie cards. Hey, this is a rookie card. Well, is it? Because we all have different definitions, and the rookie card goalpost has changed dramatically as well. What is an XRC? What is a PRC? What is a true rookie card? It's again, we can't agree on that. And until we can agree on something as simple as what is a rookie card unilaterally, we're not going to be able to agree on pretty much anything else.
But we can all agree that Mark McGwire's rookie card was in 1985 Topps.
85 USA. That's his card.
I hate both of you equally.
I
always look at McGwire's 85 USA card as his rookie card because that to me was the first Mark McGwire card printed.
Yeah, but he was an amateur.
I know he's not in his uniform as far as the team, but that is his first card.
I've said this before. The 85 USA at that time would have been considered that because that's what we knew. And Uncle Rich admitted to me how it became the rookie card as far as the Beckett Price Guide, because the Beckett Price Guide had to define, shoot, we have the 85 and the 87. What are we doing here? But by today's modern standards, the 85 USA is no different than a Bowman Chrome. What's Mike Trout's official rookie card? Is it the 09 Bowman or is it the 2011 update? Because by today's standards, it's identified as the 11 update. And by today's standards, the 87 McGwire would be the 2011 update, and the 09 Bowman Chrome would be the 85 USA. And, again, it's still a rookie card. I've never denied that. It's just the pre-rookie card. And it is the more desirable. It's the more sought after, and it's more expensive. I mean, I haven't denied any of that either. It's just not the true rookie card. But at the end of the day, we're not going to be able to agree on something so simple. It does crack me up every time I get trolled on like Twitter. Usually people are like, I said 85 publicly, but I agree it's 87. And it's like, I appreciate it. But before we get into the show, Dewey, first time on the show, so we always ask, if you could own one card, what would that be? Could be something that you don't have, could be something you do have. If it's got a backstory, even better.
Yeah, I mean, if I had to choose, between the two cards, I mean, it's either going to be this Bill Russell or this. It's going to be Jerry every time. Probably Jerry, just because my grandpa, this is iconic for me. It's got the nostalgia. I remember seeing this when I was a kid. I don't really remember Bill, but I remember Jerry, and that's why I've got it in the background. It's just, there's just some nostalgia there that I just have in the 90s,
That's what I love. It's your story, your connection,
Yep.
Even if other people own it, and plenty of people do, I'm sure, not the same connection, and that's what's so brilliant about this hobby is we all have our own stories and why we would pick a particular. I mean, obviously you ask this question in the abstract, we're all going to say, oh, the 52 Mantle or the 06, T206, Wagner. Well, that's just monetary, that's nostalgia. That's the easy answer. But when people pull stuff out of the, this card is literally worthless. It means the world to me. That's value versus worth, right? What is your most valuable card? Doesn't matter what it's worth. And so, no, definitely appreciate that. So let's hop into the show. This just in, listener mail days. We don't really have one. So, Dewey, if you have something handy you just recently got, I do have one thing I wanted to show on screen here as well. But you're welcome to share if you've got something.
Go ahead. You go first.
So my dad comes home the other day. He's attending this church, and there's a young kid there that's an artist. And the irony of it, my dad gave him a 1987 Topps McGwire and said, hey, can you draw a hand-drawn picture? So I apologize. I can't make this bigger because I probably script the show. I'm not the producer, but this is on an regular piece of paper. Probably going to trim it down a little bit to more of a 5x7 so it fits nicely in a frame. But hand drawn, true rookie card, phenomenal. This is the kind of stuff that never ceases to amaze me. It's just like the fact that somebody drew that for me. I did ask my dad after the fact. I'm like, so where'd you get the card? Because if you pulled it out of my binder, we got a problem because now my McGuire count is off. He goes, no, I bought one on eBay. I'm like, well, where's the card? Because I want it. He goes, I didn't get it back from the guy. I'm like, well, you better go get that card back because I need that in my PC. So I appreciate my dad for having him do that great piece of artwork that's going to end up with, all the other stuff on my walls at some point once I get around to it. So either you guys have anything you want to share that's sitting by you?
Yeah, hold on a second.
Okay.
So, I PC Blue Jays. I'm a Blue Jays. That's my baseball team. This is a Nate Pearson RPA at a 25 on card auto. Beautiful card. I'm not a fan of not licensed products, but I feel like the National Treasures did a great job with this, and I was able to make a trade for this card. It's a beautiful 3-color patch RPA. Nate Pearson.
Beautiful patch, yeah.
And I love the Blue Jays, so that's my mail day.
So
you got something, Chris?
Yeah, a couple things. I went to a card show over the weekend, and if you want to see how the mighty have fallen, I found this in a dollar box. A 92 Bowman Manny Ramirez rookie.
Nice.
Buck. That was once maybe a $20 card. Now my camera's all out of whack.
92 Bowman is one of the greatest sets for those rookie cards, and the fact that all those guys had to dress up in horrible Saved by the Bell outfits.
Yeah. This is a card that I bought a couple of months ago, but it was on my want list for years, probably a couple of decades. I was at a card show in Central Jersey, and I found it. It's the 1982 Fleer John Littlefield error card. It took me almost 20 years to find it.
So what is the error? Because I'm not familiar with that one.
Okay, it's a reverse negative.
Gotcha.
So it shows him throwing left-handed, but he's really right-handed.
How rare is that card?
Well, it took me 20 years to find one copy of it. So
interesting. Well, sometimes you can go on eBay and find something, but it's like I'm not paying that price.
I could have bought this off of eBay, but where's the fun in that?
There's nothing like digging through a box and finding something that's just gold to you alone. That's such a lost art of the hobby. And I went to a show 2 months ago, and I was digging through, junk wax era, pulling a bunch of 85 tops Hendersons, quarter a piece. It's like, I'm taking this home. I don't PC that, but now I've got 3 binder pages full of the 85 Henderson. And but I asked the guy, I was like, you have any more boxes like this? Because, you almost felt like that addiction to it, that this is a drug for me. It's like, oh, I got to go through more and more of this because you just don't know what you're going to find. And again, it's all junk, perhaps, it's all stuff that's just worthless. It's, nickel here, a dime there. But for a lot of us, it's like, I'm taking this home. It doesn't belong in this box. Yeah. It's going into this dude's garage. It can go sit with all of its brothers, So no, I appreciate you guys sharing. It is Christmas this weekend. So I assume a lot of people out there are going to get some cards, and we want to see them. So please share anything you get for Christmas with us over the next couple of days, week. Perhaps this will be a much larger segment on next week's show. So you can tag it about the cards if you'd like. Hashtag about the cards mail day, and we'll see what we can get on next week.
Yeah, hopefully it'll be something better than a lame-ass Manny Ramirez rookie.
But hey, if that's your thing, if you're a Man Ram collector, we want to see it. So the week that was Topps Living Week 197. Speaking of the aforementioned Manny Ramirez, he was card 475, outfielder for the Red Sox on that card. And then rookie Cabrian Hayes, third baseman of the Pirates, card 476. I do not have sold numbers. Coming out last week, major releases, 2021 Panini Flux Basketball, 2021 Topps Allen and Ginter Chrome, 2021 Bowman Inception, 2021 Panini Contenders Baseball, and 2021 Panini Impeccable Football all dropped last week. At least I believe they did. So,
one thing I want to know, who at Panini comes up with these names? It's like they're cranking out so many products. I mean, I think last year they made like 45 different basketball products.
They had no business printing Flux. They had no business even printing that product. The fact that they're already behind. They're already behind. They're still printing last year's draft class. Flux came out of Chronicles, and now you've made it a standalone product. I'm not even gonna get into it, but yeah, they need to quit wasting their time.
No, then they did, was it the 1-and-1 basketball? Because you get like one card in an encased card, so it's 1-and-1 or whatever the nonsense is. I'm writing it down. I'm like 1-on-1, right? Because in basketball, we've all played 1-on-1. How many times have we used that term in our vocabulary over the decades that we've existed on Earth? And it's 1-and-1, and it's like you're trying to be clever, and that's just stupid in my opinion. You know,
and the 1-and-1 foul shot doesn't even exist in the NBA, just in college.
Yeah, so it's an interesting name, but you're right. Who comes up with all of these? So, some are great, but a lot of these names fall extremely flat. So, hot off the presses, new releases. Topps Living Week 198 dropped. Card 477, Dave Winfield, outfielder for the Padres. 478, Casey Mize, pitcher for the Tigers. It is a rookie card. So Living's been around for quite some time now. And there was a few names that we used as examples of guys that perhaps could be on more than one team. Nolan Ryan, who they've done. Ricky Henderson, Reggie Jackson. Winfield was one. You know, Mike Piazza was one. And be curious if they did in fact make some of these, which they have, who they would be. Dave Winfield, Padres. Great, because Padres, I believe, are more underrepresented than the Yankees in this set. But he had an iconic rookie card in 74. Spent 8 years there, but he played 9 with the Yankees. He finished top 12 MVP 5 times for the Yankees, only twice for the Padres. So did they get this right? I mean, does it really matter at the end of the day? But they're only going to make one. You know, should he be a Yankee, not a Padre?
One for one of if they change teams.
Well, the new ones, yes. So you know, guys like Marcus Semien, Corey Seager, that they're now Texas Rangers, they're available.
Yeah. Okay.
But Winfield is a Padre, therefore, under the current rules, the rules they've had since its inception, Winfield's done. He does not get another card.
Oh well.
Oh well.
Topps just makes just so many of these direct-to-consumer cards that it's just hard to even keep up.
Topps has done a really bad job, I feel like. You know, I tried, and I don't even know why, because Ben, I heard you complaining about Project 2020. So I jumped in on Project 70 when it first came out. And I think I had bought about 20 cards, and I was just done. You can't keep up with it. It's economically not affordable anymore.
Right.
You know, and I was just like, why am I doing this? And Topps they're just running those printing presses at 150% full time. You ought to see, you know, like I was telling when we were talking before the show started, I was doing the WWE Living set. I don't even watch wrestling, but I wanted the Randy Savages and the Rock, and I wanted the main characters. I was like, oh, it'd be a fun set to build. It's cheap. It's $13 a week, whatever. I'll do it. The damage cards that I get, the wrong number backs, the errors, it's unreal. And, you know, I think Topps has really shot themselves on this. I really do.
And now they're committed to them, so they can't really stop.
Well, they stopped.
They're going to stop the WWE because they lost
their licensing. They sent an email out. I believe their last card will be I think, printed January something, and they're done.
Yep.
I don't even think they're trying to keep their licensing at this point, in which that's surprising to me, because you would think they would want to keep their IP up. They would want to keep the price of their company as far as buying it out up. But
Panini's taken over in Q1. We don't have a specific date. So Panini announced that a couple of months ago that they're taking over WWE. So I don't know.
Is Upper Deck taking over wrestling?
They're doing AEW.
AEW, so
different product.
Oh, they're
and that set should have been out by now.
I don't know. I guess they're different. One.
Yeah, so it's interesting with the licensing and how that all works, and we know this for a fact. They've just overproduced so much stuff that it's overwhelming to collectors. The hobby fatigue has set in for so many of us. I was one of the first ones that, hey, Project 70, if they do a Lou Gehrig, I'm all in, because that's how I started back into the hobby, collecting Mantle and Gehrig and Ruth. And then they came out. I think Lauren Taylor was the first one dropping one at Project 70. And it's like, at $22, I just can't do it. Mostly because it's like, I'd rather spend that $22 over here. I'd rather buy something else for my A's PC. I just can't venture too far out. The Paul Genis, what is it? I can't think of it. Game Within the Game or whatever. He did a Babe Ruth and it was like $7. It's like, cool, I'll buy that. The Topps Archive mini poster, the insert that had Ruth and Gehrig on it. Cool, I'll buy it. It's $3. I don't mind venturing out onto a different lily pad, so to speak, in the swamp. But at the end of the day, $22 is just not. I mean, it's bad enough trying to collect your team or your player or players, especially when, God forbid, if you were collecting Ohtani and if you're an Angels collector, a Yankees collector, you had what, two guys, New York Nico and Joshua Vides, that both did a 20 card set of nothing but Yankees. It's like $20 a pop. I mean, perhaps you're in a different tax bracket and you don't have young kids and diapers and child support and et cetera, but it's just amazing how much of that stuff is available, and they just, like you said, they don't care. It's like, buy it, don't buy it. We're going to make it. Somebody will buy it. And as long as they're in the black when it comes down to it at the end of the day, why wouldn't they? They don't care if they bastardize this product, So moving on, we've got Topps.
Needs the money too, because they're in a lot of debt, allegedly.
Allegedly, yeah. So, well, yeah, we don't know. We don't know what their numbers look like. That's what was going to be great if Mudrick took them, public, because then we could have saw some of that, curtain being drawn back. I would love to dig into their financials.
Well, I want to say something real quick, Ben, just before you keep going, because I don't want people to think I'm a negative Nancy and just hear bashing on Topps and Panini, because that's not my goal. I love the hobby. I love Topps. I hate seeing the Topps brand go to somewhere else. I really do. I think it's horrible. Topps is an icon brand to me. That's all I know when it comes to baseball cards. But at the same time, I think that Topps needs to understand. I've been collecting since I was 1990 basically, and I've never stopped. And I know what the price of some of these boxes cost, and the markups have gotten. I make good money, but you're not going to suck my money out of my pocket for what you're charging for that wax. And, I've gotten to a point where their prices are out of control, and it's like, I'll take that money and I'll put it into a single, and I know I'll have some value in that single no matter what. So I just want to put that out there. I'm not bashing on them. They've rubbed me wrong. So.
Yeah, and you get what you want when you buy that single. You know exactly what you're getting. Like you said, Chris, it might not be as fun going on eBay and buying it versus finding something in the wild. But when I get a mail day, and my mail's delivered tomorrow and I get new cards, it's not as cool as, opening in that unknown. But you know what? I'm always 100% happy with what I get because I've bought something I've wanted. And, to your point, Dewey, about not being a negative Nancy, we've gotten feedback on this show about, oh God, it's so negative. It's like, yeah, that's a reflection of the hobby. Try to be positive in this hobby. It's very difficult over the last few years. We're here to report what's going on. That's how our podcast was designed. You want positive stuff? Okay, cool. Tops, you want us to say something nice about you? Do something better, because we'll talk nice about Upper Deck all day long. Why? Because A, they make themselves available on social media. Their customer support and customer service is top notch. They do things the right way. Jason Mashara comes on here and other shows. I know he was a featured guest on some other podcasts. Completely transparent and open. Answered difficult questions. Made himself available. We've tried to get Panini on. We've tried to get Tops on and ask questions, even if it's just, surface stuff like, hey, what's going on? They don't respond to our requests. Not that they have to, but when you're doing so many things negative, and we've talked about Tops doing some good stuff, not very often because they haven't done good stuff very often. We try to be as transparent as we can and just report what's going on and have our own personal opinions. And Shep and Steph and I and whoever our guests are don't always see eye to eye. But at the end of the day, Tops and Panini are just crap in the bed over and over and over again. And hey, if that's what you're doing, that's what we're going to have to talk about. That's all we have available. We're not going to make stuff up just because the last 3 years we've been negative. Do better.
And that's one of the things.
Well, here's the thing I'd like to ask them. Right? Sorry, Chris, I didn't mean to cut you off. Here's the thing, right? Like we were talking about before the show started. I bought a box. I remember I bought a box of, it was either 2010 or 2011 National Treasures. I bought that box for $400 when it first came out. That was like the first year Nationals came out, or maybe the second year, one of those. Nothing's changed in that product. So you explain them, besides demand, how did you go from 400 to 5,000? Nothing's changed. The autographs were still there. The optic chrome was still there. Everything was still there. Card Collector too, I'm sure you follow him or you watch the shows. They were talking about SRP, and some of those prices I was flabbergasted when they were talking about what SRPs are. $200 for a box of cards for National Treasure. SRP for, I believe they said, Prism Football SRP was $200. But they know the markup's $1,000 because that's what they're going to get. People are going to pay the $1,000. But that's not suggested retail. Suggested retail was $300 on Prism Football, but they're still selling it at $1,000. That to me is insane. That markup, I understand you got to make profit and you got overhead, and I know how a business runs, but you don't charge 5x. That just rubs people wrong. So that's my stance on the whole thing.
Yeah, I went to Wendy's today, which I don't often go for fast food. I'm trying to lose some weight and whatnot, but I happened to be in a parking lot on a lunch break, and it was right there. And I hadn't been to Wendy's in quite some time, and I get in line, and everything was like $11, $12 for a value meal. I'm like, okay, I've talked about skimflation on here before, where the prices are going up. Cost of living isn't jumping with it. People are charging 10, 15, 20% more for the same product. You're not getting better customer service as a result. You're not getting better food. In some cases, you're getting less for your money, but you're paying more. And, out the door is like $12.32. And I pull into my, my job, and I sit in the car, and I was like, it's a sandwich, a small fry, and a small soda for $12. And I'm like, in what world is this conceivably worth that? There are other restaurants that you could, pay $10 for. Again, it was just an issue of convenience at that moment. I'm like, I'm never going back to Wendy's. I'm sorry. Not because it's not good food, even if it was completely healthy. It's just like, it's not worth it for what you're charging. Like you said with National Treasures, when I got back into the hobby, that was one of the first high-end products that made itself known to me. $400, and it's like, you get 8 cards. Are you kidding me? These cards are $50 each on average. And again, I did not have a formal education, so I looked at things a little bit different back then as regards to finance and whatnot. But at $400, and now, yeah, like you said, you're not getting anything more out of these boxes, but they're considerably more expensive, whether it's 2x, 5x, 10x. And who's buying this stuff outside of breakers? Are people actually buying this off of hobby shop shelves? Because how can you do that? I mean, I get it. Some people are in different financial brackets. Socioeconomics are what they are. But good Lord, you can't do this time and time again. It's like, if anybody's saying that this hobby isn't catering to the breakers, please reach out, because I'd love to get more insight on that, because that's just absolutely false. All right. let's move on. Good talk. Who knew that asking about whether or not Dave Winfield was on the right team on Topps Living would turn into that.
That's a tangent.
It is. That's what I love about the show. I write show notes. Shep always wrote show notes, so we had something to talk about. But it was always best when we didn't necessarily stay on topic. So, Topps Living Star Wars available through next Tuesday came out. I apologize. I've got the links, but Steph is really the producer of the show. He knows where everything's at and what to click. Card 267, Nick's Jerd, Star Wars The Last Jedi. And then card 268 was R5D4, Star Wars A New Hope. I think it's the little red droid that looks like R2D2. I think he's more square. So go check those out if you're collecting that living set. Topps Throwback Thursday. I love this. This one is fantastic. It's the 1988 Topps Team Leaders. This is set number 50 for the year. This is the second iteration of this particular one. I'm assuming it'll be the last one, and we'll probably start back over at set 1 going into next year. Card 148, Brooklyn Dodgers, featuring Pee Wee Reese, Gil Hodges, and Jackie Robinson, and a snowman. Card 149, Mike Trout with the short print variation, and card 150, Andy Pettit. And we've already seen some cards from next week. Really cool Tom Glavine on ice skates. So, and then the Team Leaders is in my opinion, a great design, perhaps because I was a kid when that came out, and 9 years old, and McGuire and Canseco were on the A's. It's just a neat set, so I'm glad they chose that design. Some major releases coming out this week. Panini Mosaic Fast Break Basketball came out today. $750 a box, according to Steel City. 18 packs, 8 cards. You'll get 1 auto, 1 silver or silver mosaic, 10 Fast Break Prisms, 5 inserts, and a rookie variation.
Now, what exactly is a fast break box? And how is that any different from a regular box?
You want me to step in on that?
Yeah,
So
if you know the exact answer, that'd be great.
So it's not. I mean, I know you know baseball, so it's basically like going from a box of baseball. Like, so if you're buying Panini Optic, and then they have Optic Choice. So like the Optic Choice is basically you're going to get more parallels and inserts, but you're going to get a lot less cards. So you got a hobby box, and then you got these fast breaks. It's usually 1, maybe 2 packs, and it'll be, so many guaranteed parallels, so many autographs, and that's it. You're not getting a full box to break. You're only getting maybe a quarter of the product, but you're getting more parallels and inserts. That's all it is.
So you're paying $750 for
so like the Optic
bunch
Choice,
of parallels.
they guarantee like shock waves or whatever it might be parallels. You're guaranteed like 2 of those or whatever it might be.
Whatever.
So a lot, like I know when Optic Choice came out with LaMelo, that was the big chase. Everybody was chasing that parallel in that choice, and it was only choice only you could pull that type of parallel. But the thing of it is Panini's got 50 different parallels now.
Exactly.
So just for a 1-on-1, right? You got 50 1-on-1s anymore. To me, that's not a 1-on-1.
No, it's just watering it down.
They're just watering it down, and then they're charging $750. And it goes back to I don't need this hobby.
Yeah.
So.
Does that box also come with some lubricant?
It's
$750.
No, they don't. They like to make sure you're dry.
So that's really the funny.
Do they at least give you a reach around or?
No, none of that.
No. That's in the other even more expensive box.
I don't get me wrong. I love Bowman Draft. I love Bowman Chrome. Like that's pretty expensive product for me. To me that's expensive. But I believe when I bought I bought a box of 2020 Bowman Draft. And it was the HTA. I mean, that was a $500 box. That to me is a lot of money, right? And these guys blowing $750,000 on basketball stuff. It's insane to me. It's insane.
Yeah.
But at least when I buy an HTA, I'm getting 12 packs of 30-something cards in a pack. I know. And
you get 5 autographs?
5 autos.
Yeah.
You get so many parallels. Yeah, these Optic. This isn't the gambling and the hobby that they're paying for.
Yeah.
That's all this is.
No, yeah, it's week after week. It's the same stuff, just a different name. That's really all it is. It's the same numbers
products over and over again.
It really is. It's
you bought Allen and Ginter 3 months ago. Here's Ginter Chrome.
Yeah, and people are gobbling it up, and yeah, it's just. So speaking of products, this one I was like, you got to be kidding me. Topps Dynasty. I think I've got maybe one card in my PC that came out today. $550 a box. You get one pack, one card. That's it. One card.
50.
One card.
One card?
I
One card.
remember when this
thought
product
Dynasty
came
had
out, it was like maybe $199 a box for the one card.
Yep.
Wow.
So you
better hope you get a good one of one out of that, because if not,
you'll get one encased auto relic or cut signature. The cut signatures are the chase. That's what you need. If you're not getting a cut signature, you're probably not getting your money back, because a lot of these singles, at least in years past, would sit between $80 to $150. If that's where you're at, I'm going to look at some A's cards just to see. Not that I'm going to be a buyer, but I'd really like to see what your return value is on this, because it cannot be good. But all cards are numbered 10 or less. So good luck. Hopefully you catch the cut signature. Again, save your money and buy your guy.
Indeed.
Buy your guy on the secondary if you must have Topps Dynasty in your PC. So a good value box. This is actually not bad if you're into unlicensed cards and you like the Bowman type cards. Panini Elite Extra Edition is coming out on Friday, Christmas Eve. $100 a box. 5 packs, 5 cards. You're going to get on average 8 autos, 2 mem, 5 opti chrome per box. So about $10 an auto with some extra stuff there. All base cards are going to be numbered out of $9.99, and there are 17 parallels to collect, like always. But again, if you're a Bowman guy and you don't,
it's an unlicensed Bowman draft.
it is.
So
they're not bad. The die cuts are usually nice. Yeah. It's affordable. If you want to bust something and you get 8 autos, I mean, that's not bad. And a lot of times Elite in the past has been, you'll get an extra auto or 2 sometimes. So, $100 bill, you can do a lot worse.
Cards is an autographed mem. So,
I think some, like Panini, I love Diamond Kings. I love that product. I really do. I think it's a gorgeous product. It's affordable. It's $100. You get some nice autos out of it, but it's not licensed. But some of that non-licensed stuff, really nice product. It's just not licensed, right?
Yeah.
Which is a topic we're going to get into in a little while. Brian Gray made a comment about this. We'll talk about it in just a bit. Panini Flawless comes out on Christmas Eve as well. $2,250 a box. You're going to get 1 pack. You'll get 10 cards. There'll be 7 autos, 2 mems, and 1 gem card. And then there'll be RPAs of Casey Mize, Brian Hayes, and some other hot young rookies in baseball. And then finally, the other big one will be Panini Illusions Football dropping on Christmas Eve. $450 a box. You'll get 10 packs, 5 cards, 3 autos, 2 mems, 5 parallels, 5 acetate inserts or parallels. So a couple of other things that dropped or will be dropping. 12/22 Panini Donruss Soccer came out. 12/22 Topps NHL sticker collection. 12/22 Topps Topps Star Wars Stellar Signatures. Very similar to Topps Transcendent, I believe. It's $10,000 a box. You'll get a complete base set, which I believe is 100 cards, and then a bunch of low-numbered autos of a lot of the main actors and actresses from Star Wars. And then as well coming out this week, Topps WWE Wrestling, and Chris's favorite set, Topps Gallery, has dropped at some point this week with no checklist like always.
No, of course not.
He said, who cares? Me, I like it. I know. Every year. And then
I used to like Gallery back like when it was in the 90s and early 2000s. And now it's kind of just there.
They're not doing...
It's a retail...
throwaway product.
Yeah.
Their images on the card this year, not sketches, so they don't look stupid like they've done in years past, where it's like my kid could have drawn a more, better rendering of such and such player. So They look nice, if that's your thing. It's good for a set collector like me. I just wish there was a checklist so I knew when it says Ricky Henderson and Reggie Jackson on the drop down on eBay, I know whether or not it's a Yankee or an A, and I'm not buying it blindly. Same thing with Topps Fire, that every friggin' year you're buying it not knowing. So all scheduled release dates are subject to change, but we're current as of this morning. MSRP pricing and product details were gathered from Blowout Cards and Steel City this week. Check out Ryan Cracknell's articles on Beckett.com/news for more details on these new releases. What's brewing next week? 2021 historical autos, famous Americans, factory set, hobby, blaster, and vending. Chris, do you know anything about the historical autos? Like who makes them? Like,
I think it's just this separate company that makes it, and this is the only product that they make. I saw a baseball one, and there was a lot of current, more like 60s, 70s, 80s names. Guys that would be from that era. The Keith Hernandezes of the world, Robin Yount, George Brett's, all the way through the the steroid era guys. I didn't see a checklist of any kind. So when I say famous Americans, I'm assuming people from the worlds of science and economics and Hollywood, perhaps.
Is that the same company that makes POTUS?
I think so.
Okay.
I think so.
I think it's the same company that makes POTUS.
I couldn't find anything, so that's why I was going to see if you guys knew or had heard. So, if you end up buying any, if any listeners out there buy any or come across anything, let us know. I'd love to take a look at some of this and find out what it's about. Busy week also slated, if it holds. Wednesday next week, 12/29, Topps WWE Fully Loaded, and then Friday the 31st, New Year's Eve, Bowman Draft. Bowman's Best, Panini Immaculate UFC, Panini Immaculate Basketball, Topps Transcendent, and Topps WWE Undisputed. So,
and we shall see. Topps and WWE apparently. So
they got to get it in at the end of the year.
That's their last product. 3 WWE products in the last week and a half. Actually, 4 with Heritage. Yeah, they're going to release 4 WWE products in December.
The final run of the living. So, yeah. Hey, go out in a ball of glory or, a flame. So, infield chatter, hobby talk. First of many, Tracy Hackler exits stage left, leaving Panini after 11 years. There is an article out there. You can catch it on Tracy's Twitter and on Beckett. Tracy tweeted out where his next hobby stop will be. He's going to join Jimmy Mahan's Kentucky Roadshow, Jimmy being one of the hobby greats. So he was able to secure Tracy, I believe, probably in a PR role of some sort. I was originally going to put this at the top of the show in the announcements, but I felt maybe we should talk about it a bit more in depth. We know both Topps and Panini have uncertain futures at this point. Is this the first of many well-known members of the manufacturing community to start making career changes?
No.
You think we're going to see a lot more
now?
No.
Several more.
You think they're going to?
If Tracy's left Panini, that's because and everybody knows who Tracy is, right?
Yeah.
Tracy's left Panini to go work for the guy in Kentucky. He owns his own card shop, right? That's the guy at the hardwood floor in there and stuff.
Yeah.
He's got a couple else opening up
and he's trying to franchise it. So
yeah. If Tracy's left Panini for that, and I'm not saying that guy's a great guy. I'm not saying nothing bad, right? But I'm just saying in general, Tracy's been around, right? He worked for Beckett, I believe, and then now he went to Panini. If he's leaving Panini, he knows the fire's getting hot. I really think that he knows that Panini's. I think what you're going to, and this is just my own opinion, but I think Panini's going purely soccer, and they're leaving America. I think they're going to stay over in Europe and do their thing, and I think this is Tracy's the first signal of that.
Well, we had him on a hobby hotline last night, Tracy, and it sounded like this Kentucky Roadshow guy just made him an offer he couldn't refuse. I mean, I certainly didn't have Tracy Hackler leaving Panini to go work for an LCS in Kentucky on my bingo card. But apparently they're going to franchise this. They're opening up one in Westchester County, New York. They're opening up a third location I want to say in the Bay Area,
Yeah, Napa.
California, and a third in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, which is, where Tracy and Panini are. So,
That's interesting about the New York thing too, because David Adams is opening a brand new store in that same area.
well, this one's closer to New York City.
Oh, okay.
It's in
I know
Westchester
David Adams
County,
did. They got a new place there in New York.
Yeah,
Cooperstown.
Yeah.
That's our next topic. Thank you, Dewey.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Shep used to hate me because I would say something. He goes, "Did you even read the show notes? We're going to talk about that in a minute." And I'm like, "No, I'd never read the show notes."
No, I did read it, but I didn't follow him. So
No, it's actually a perfect segue into the next topic, which is Topps partners with David Adams to open up their first ever LCS located in Cooperstown. David Adams, located in Buffalo, New York, opened in '91. The new LCS is slated to open in spring of 2022. I mean, this whole situation is very curious, considering that the Fanatics takeover puts both Topps and David Adams' future in question. I mean, it all kind of the same thing, right? I mean, Jimmy's franchising out. We have a lot of friends that are opening up LCSs, and right now we don't know what the future. The getting might be really good today, but 2-3 years from now, if you listen to sports card radio at all, Colin Tedridge will be the first one to tell you that distributors, Southern Hobby, Steel City, David Adams, the writing is on the wall. They're not going to have a good time 3 years, 4 years from now. Doesn't mean he's right. We want to speculate. We want to, forecast. Jimmy Mahan, one of the greatest guys you'll ever meet. But, he's franchising out. These LCSs that are popping up. We saw it in the 90s when everybody and their brother, McDonald's and an LCS, just like right now, you'll see McDonald's and a Starbucks. If we start seeing LCSs pop up, there's only so much consumer money to go around. That's it. Or collector money, as Chris likes to say.
Yeah. When I was in high school 30 years ago, 30 years ago. Anyway, 30 years ago when I was in high school, there were 4 hobby shops within walking distance of my house. And, none of them are left. But that's how oversaturated hobby stores were back then. And are we getting back into that? Maybe. I do want to say about this Cooperstown store. There's already plenty of hobby shops in Cooperstown if you've ever been there. There's at least 2 or 3 of them. So I know a lot of those stores don't really cater to the hardcore collector. They're really there for casual baseball fans and tourists. I'm curious as to the relationship between Topps and David Adams. Is this a Topps store that's being subcontracted to David Adams? Or is this a David Adams store where Topps just bought the naming rights for it? Because if you look at a map, Cooperstown is a long way from Buffalo. It's about a 4.5-hour drive from Buffalo to Cooperstown. So it's not exactly in the David Adams region. I think it's probably closer to really where Topps is in New York than it is to where David Adams is in Buffalo. I think I also read that this is maybe a seasonal shop that will only be open during the spring, summer era time frame. I don't know if it's going to be open just for 2022 or not, if this is a long-term thing. It's been a while since I've been to Cooperstown, so I'm kind of curious to see what this shop is going to be like. So,
on you, Chris, same thing here. So I live in Utah, And when I was a kid, there was a card shop, pretty reasonable around. They were around, not a lot. It got to a point here that I was still collecting. There was only 3 card shops in the entire state. Right now, I think we've got about 15. So it's popping back up, right?
Yeah.
But to your point, as far as so there was and I don't remember where I saw it, but I watched an interview with the David Adams owner. It might have been on Hobby Hotline. I'm not sure. He was saying that Cooperstown store is opening this spring, coming up. They said by April timeframe is when they plan on opening it. I thought he said it was an all year round store. So you might be able to find that interview. But I do know that Josh Luber has stated, and there was an interview, and I don't remember where I seen it, but Josh Luber pretty much came out on that interview and said that they have every intention on making sure LCSs are sticking around, that people that want to sell product, I think you're going to see more product than we've ever seen. I really do.
Oh, there's no doubt about that. But I think a lot of that's just posturing. I don't think they care about the LCS, and again, could be wrong. Colin from Sports Card Radio has some really interesting insight. Even if you disagree with it, he's got some interesting insight about the middle person, because Fanatics has pitched this as a one-stop shop. We'll break it for you. We'll list it for you on our marketplace. We'll grade it for you. Everything is going to be in-house. The collector doesn't have to do anything. Like ComC, we'll move it from your account to my account if we buy it. And every time Fanatics is going to scoop a little bit of a transaction fee. That's where they're going to make a ton of money. And for us, it's like, oh, it's only a nickel. Well, you multiply that by how many ever thousands of transactions that are going on per day. Cha-ching, cha-ching. Best business advice I ever received when I was young and trying to, have the coffee shop. And somebody said, if you're going to open a business, find an industry, find a business where the cash register rings, whether you're there or not. Because so many people go into business where they've got to work 60, 80, 100 hours a week and break their backs. It's like, if you can find something, and that idea, right? Open up a coffee shop. I can hire people at some point. I don't have to do it. Unfortunately, didn't work out for me in my younger days. If I knew then what I knew now, probably would have been successful. But that's where Fanatics, I believe, is gonna. They don't care about the LCS. If these shops close, who cares? Could be wrong, but moving on. Let's hop into a really cool topic real quick. While there's uncertainty for both Topps and Panini, Upper Deck tweeted out this today that. Bear with me one moment while I open the tweet. Breaking news, Upper Deck and PHF Hockey announced a new multi-year agreement. PHF's first ever professional women's hockey trading cards will be released during the 22-23 season. Steph had a message. Apologize, earmuffs, if you don't like cuss words. He's like, I fucking called it. I told him, hey, it's Christmas. We can have one F word in here. Starting with the season, the 2022-23 season, the Premier Hockey Federation is what PHF stands for, have a multi-year deal with Upper Deck. I was going to ask Steph how he feels like this is going to affect the hockey market moving forward. This is now the second big contract Upper Deck has announced in recent weeks, with the aforementioned AEW Wrestling being the other. While Topps and Panini continue to scramble to protect their remaining licenses, Upper Deck is quietly adding to their roster and entering new markets, offering collectors different options that the hobby hasn't yet had available to collect. What are your guys' thoughts on AEW and now the PHF? We've got female hockey coming up soon.
Well, these companies kind of have to look for something, because it's not like, in this, the era of the exclusive license, it's not like they can go out and get a baseball license,
right,
or the NBA license again. So you're going to have to stretch for some of these mid-tier, low-tier sports. Like, Topps seems to have struck gold with Formula One. Good for them. Panini has always been aggressive in acquiring licenses, whether that's the WWE getting that from Topps. Earlier this year, they poached another license from Topps. They got the UFC from them. So yeah, it's either, if you want to grow, you're going to have to find some new sports to find a new niche that doesn't have a trading card set. So
Yeah, I think Panini, as much as I bash Panini, the one thing that they've got me on is I think Panini has struck gold when it comes to esports. And when I say that, I talk about Fortnite. Fortnite is the Pokemon of the millennials today. Everybody plays that game, and I promise you, these kids that are hardcore in the video games right now, in 30 years, they're going to want to break a box of this in 30 years from now. I actually collect Fortnite cards. This is an Optic Chrome Ice Queen. This is actually a big card in the Series 2 set. They're gorgeous products, and they're very affordable right now. Again, once they become non-affordable, I won't collect them anymore. But esports is an avenue that I think Panini has opened, and I think it's going to be huge. But they have to pivot, or they're done.
Yeah. So what you're saying is Pokemon is about to become vintage?
Yeah. Well,
way to circle back.
Give it 40, 50 years, and then we'll. But no, yeah, I mean, esports is huge. Fortnite is a phenomenon right now. Everybody plays that game. Everybody knows what it is, and they're printing the cards and they're selling, and they're selling for a lot of money.
It's interesting you brought that up, Chris, because somebody brought up during the discussion on Twitter that the 86-87 Jordan rookie is vintage. It's quite possible that the vintage era can be isolated to baseball cards alone, and that vintage football, vintage basketball, perhaps vintage Pokemon, especially since Pokemon's going to be much, much younger than baseball, as are the other sports. Vintage is not a unilateral. I collect vintage baseball cards. We're going to know it's defined to a certain period. I collect vintage basketball. Could be something completely different. Maybe not necessarily, but again, it's not unilateral across the entire hobby. Vintage was an era in baseball. And of course, Pokemon and some of the other, collectibles, the non-sports, they're going to have different definitions of that very word, where maybe that goalpost does change with the calendar, where baseball is a period of time. So, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. I collect 1950s cards. Doesn't matter what you want to call it. But if we're talking about the argument and the discussion, the narrative, then, speaking of other avenues, you got Topps Bunt, NFL Blitz, Panini Dunk. You got digital trading card apps. A guy named Bo Basent tweeted out a completed listing of a Joe Burrow digital card that apparently sold for $499.99. His narrative, and this is his opinion, based on the tweet, why would someone pay for something that doesn't exist? So it created two different discussions in that thread, if you follow the tweet. Even if listed correctly by the seller, are sellers trying to trick unsuspecting buyers into buying a digital card, similar to perhaps the through the years inserts we've seen? The second was, why are people spending serious, even stupid money on digital cards, which, like NFTs and other things? My question to you guys is the onus on the buyer, the seller, or both to list and buy correctly?
Go ahead, Chris. You go first.
If somebody values, a Joe Burrow, what was this again? Digital card.
Yeah, it's like a select.
Wants to pay $500 for it. I'm not. If I had that card and somebody was willing to pay me $500 for it, I'm not going to turn it down.
Sure.
Whatever.
And this all goes into NFTs, like, you guys know who Beeple is? This
what?
guy, his name's Beeple. I think his name's Beeple. Anyways, he does digital art. He just sold, it was called the 5,000 Days. And it was a picture every day that he created for 5,000 days and then made a collage out of it. And he sold it for $66 million. The issue I have with NFTs, period, like when I go on a Panini's website, I can buy a pack of NFTs right there for $100. That's how much they're charging for a pack of NFTs on Panini's site for a digital asset, right? The issue I have with NFTs, and if somebody wants to spend their money, that's fine. It doesn't affect me. That's your money, bud. But to me, a digital asset is only as good as long as that server's around, right? Because when you buy a Panini NFT or a Topps NFT, you are buying that digital asset on a server they own. You don't own that server, they own that server. What happens when those companies belly up?
Well, isn't the whole point of the blockchain is to distribute that across a network of computers and not just a top server?
Exactly. You're 100%. Chris, you're right. There is the blockchain aspect of it. That's why crypto works. But the difference is like Bitcoin is on the blockchain. Panini's NFTs are not on the blockchain. They have their little chain picture on there, but I own Bitcoin. If I want to give you Bitcoin, I can send it to you through the blockchain, but you can't send me your NFT unless I have maybe the app. You can, but what I'm saying is if Panini goes away, that asset doesn't exist anymore. It only exists if it says it, if they say it exists, right? But Bitcoin can be moved from wallet to wallet and it's secure, but not on Panini's NFT. It's not.
Yeah.
And to me, an asset to me is something I can tangibly hold. Assets, I can hold it, I can see it, I can sell it, I can give it to you. That's an asset to me. But I don't like NFTs. I think they're garbage as far as when it comes to cards. I think that's the biggest waste of money in the world. But if somebody wants to waste their money on it, fine with me. It's not my money.
I think my views on NFTs are starting to evolve a little bit. I think that from a hobby perspective, NFTs are going to wind up doing something. I don't know what that is yet, and I'm not sure anybody knows what it is yet. I think what it has to get past, though, is the current phase of NFTs, which is the Carneys and Rubes phase. A lot of people, I don't want to call it, say, scam artists, but a lot of people hyping these up as investment types. But I think that there might be something useful here. It's just we don't know what it is yet.
Yeah,
I agree. There is a space for it, and the blockchain is real, and I 100% am on board with that. But I'm not on board with the Panini NFTs or the Topps NFTs because if I want to buy the card, your digital card from you, you've got to transfer it. You can sell it to me and you can give it to me and you can transfer it to me on Panini's site, but it's got to be done through Panini.
Yeah.
Until Panini's not the middleman anymore, I don't want to be a part of it.
Yeah, no. And my wife was infamous for spending $5 here, $10 here on her, her Candy Crush type games, right? I play Forge of Empires, spend $10, $20 here. If I decide tomorrow to stop playing Forge of Empires, I don't get any of that money back. I can't sell it. I can't transfer it. It's just I've stopped playing the game. I spent real money. What's the difference between spending hundreds of dollars on a video game where it's, something on your phone or something inside Minecraft or something versus a digital trading card app? I mean, at the end of the day, we spend our money, go out to buy dinner, because it tastes better. You like the ambiance of the restaurant. You like the, this, that, or the other thing. Yeah. I remember taking my brother to a casino to see Blues Traveler years and years ago. And I was like, hey, you want to gamble real quick? And he goes, why? And I'm like, because you're 21. Let's have fun. And we stick a $10 bill in a slot machine. He pulls a slot. He loses. And he's like, okay, next, what happens next? I'm like, that's it. You're done. You lost your $10. And he's like, seriously, that's it? And people do that. And I'm like, look around this casino. All of these people, maybe not at $10 a clip, but at the end of the night, the casino is going to make a lot of money off of people that are like just one more spin on the roulette table, one more pull of this slot machine. You know, a lot of people are going to go bust tonight. So yeah, at the end of the day, spend your money how you want. I just like this guy, Bo. It's hard to justify spending money on something that could very well go away tomorrow. At the end of the day, even if you overpay on a trading card and it's just a piece of cardboard, at least you have it. You know, you can always do something with it. Hell, use it as a coaster. Then it becomes a tangible asset. You know, prop up that coffee table that always sat crooked. You know, turning to a similar topic, in the sense that maybe the buyer should know what they're buying. COMC has a 2021 Turn Back the Clock Robin Yount listed on eBay. It's numbered out of 355. Apparently, someone asked COMC, and I don't have this in front of me because this was from Steph. Someone asked where the card is numbered, and we know that it's not numbered. It's a print run, not a serial number. Newer hobbyists might not know about print runs, of course, so it's a valid question. You know, the person's asking, where is it serial numbered out of 355? Although, in my opinion, there's nothing wrong with COMC's listing. Should COMC and other sellers at least add the words PR before 355 as opposed to the slash, so the buyers know it's a print run and not a serial number?
I think it's up to the I mean, you can't hold full responsibility on COMC, right? Because they're just providing a service or a platform for somebody to sell something on. I think it's up to us as collectors to be educated enough to know what we're looking at.
It's a valid question, right? Dewey, you got a card at 355. I don't see the serial number. And then you come back to Ben and say, Ben, it's a print run. It was a Tops on Demand product. And the 355 of these sold. There's only 355 available. Again, I'm not throwing COMC under the bus. It was just something where somebody asked the question, and I think it's valid. But perhaps listing them, we should say print run, not out of 355, just for more transparency.
Whatever. Gotta know.
Yeah, I think the seller needs to be as transparent as possible.
Yeah, just ask. Hey, valid question, ask. The buyer did nothing wrong. They want to know where's the serial number. COMC can say it's not. You know, but it's better that you ask that question beforehand than after the fact and go, hey, you said 355. I don't see this. Just ask beforehand. You know, ask if it's a digital card. What does a digital card mean? I don't understand digital if you're new. That way there's not a transaction that has to be canceled at a later date, you know.
Yep.
And have fun with some of the sellers that are listing the through the years inserts. I can't tell you how many of those people I've reached out to just for my own personal enjoyment. Hey, is this an on-card auto? Yes, it is. Okay. You know, that's an easy block. If you, and I've had a few people are like, no, it's not an on-card auto. It's this. Hey, cool. Probably should have put that in your listing somewhere, but are manufacturers ruining their own products via Wrasslin Walrus? He tweets out, let me bring up the tweet real quick. Note to Panini America, don't put 6 cards the thickness of the Recon basketball set in one pack. A ton of them have been coming out with corner imperfections from being packed so tightly. Like the set a lot, but like them to be in better shape. Should manufacturers be doing more particular, during the quality control as to not ruin their own products as they're being packed out?
Yeah.
I think we can all agree, right?
Yeah.
Thick cards. If you have to make 8 packs instead of 6 packs, then make 8 packs. Plus, it also creates the illusion that I'm getting more money or more bang for my buck, so to speak. But don't shove them in there. And that's also a PSA to sellers. Don't shove team sets into, penny sleeves and team bags and et cetera, the wrong size top loaders just because you're trying to skimp on shipping. Be better, especially a manufacturer. Come on.
Panini Recon, that's another name.
Recon came out of the Chronicles product.
Every
Flux. So they've taken
whatever.
Everything. I mean, if you look back, so you've got Prestige, Recon, Flux. You know, they were all Chronicles product,
Yeah.
and now they're on standalone. Panini's just on a tear to make money.
Yeah, Mosaic, Obsidian, at least in baseball, those ones were basketball products that went into Chronicles to see how they worked.
And I'm
So there's
still
another.
waiting for Score Baseball, so which is never going to happen.
So there, believe this or not, guys, and I know this is going to be a shock. There is another grading card company to consider. This came I know.
You don't say.
This came our way via Jay Gruen 78 on Twitter. This company is called AGS, or Automated Grading Systems. It's another grading company trying to differentiate themselves in an oversaturated market. AGS does have a very interesting, as it's labeled on their website, investor and advisor. His name is Master P, the rapping icon. According to their website, they have a staff, including Master P, of 29 people listed on their Our Team page. All kinds of three-letter acronyms.
What's Master P going to do? Is he going to like stand at the encapsulation machine and?
He's an investor and an advisor.
He's going to wrap your cards.
What does this guy know about cards?
He's going to look at your cards and make an album.
Yeah.
Huh?
There are made-up professions.
He has no business.
Made-up professions in this world that make stuff up. Investors, advisors, economists, weather people. They just make it up until it sounds nice. AGS is using a robo-grading automated software to ensure accuracy, and they claim it to be 10x more accurate than human grading. Pricing starts at $20 per card if you want a 28 to 30-day turnaround, and you can buy your cards back faster for up to $250 for a 2 to 3-day turnaround. So
you can buy them back faster.
Well, in the sense that if you want to submit one card, it's going to cost you $20. You'll get it back in a month. If you want to pay $250 to them, you'll get it back in 2 to 3 days.
So here's my opinion on that. And I'm just going to say it because I like grading. I'm not going to say I don't, okay? Because I do like having when it comes to this kind of stuff, it needs to be authenticated because there's a lot of fakes out there. I personally agree with PSA. However, I'm not a fan of PSA the way they price their structure. So when I was building this set, I had like 30 cards left that I had to get graded to finish my 1961 set. Now here's a story I'm going to tell you. I bought this card in a PSA case. Okay, this is a PSA 5 Bill Russell. This is a pretty big card. I bought this card off eBay, authenticated by PSA. So a lot of people think, and maybe it is, and maybe this just got through. I don't know. I don't know what did, but I bought this card for $350. I cracked it, resubmitted it, and got a PSA 5. In my opinion, I always thought authentication means it's real. All they're saying is, yes, it's real. No, it's not. It's not. It doesn't mean it's altered. It just means it's real or not, right? Other people have told me that, no, it should have been altered. That's why they authenticated it, because it is a real card, but it didn't have enough justification for a grade. Okay, so there's no consistency when it comes to grading with PSA even. And I like PSA. You bring all these other companies in. Master P doesn't know what he's looking at. Why am I going to grade my cards with him?
Because it's Master P.
He's throwing a bunch of money and got a team behind him. I'm sorry, but if Chris was working for Master P, maybe I'll talk to him about it, because you gotta have people that know what they're doing, and you just can't do. There's so many grading companies anymore, and if PSA can't be consistent, there's no way I'm going to use somebody else.
Yeah, there's a follow-up one. I don't want to spend really any time on this topic. I was just going to report this out. Speaking of grading, PSA is said to have graded over 200,000 cards in 2020, according to an industry website who gathered their information from the PSA Pop Report. The article was linked in Suze's card chat email today, and you're welcome to read more about it if you subscribe, which you should already be doing. She's a phenomenal asset in the hobby. She does her card chats, #card chat, every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern. And then, she and her
And
husband,
now
Dan
on
Good.
Hobby Hotline.
Yeah, she's a phenomenal asset.
What's the gal's name? Sue what?
Chris, do you know how to pronounce her last name?
I think
Is she on Twitter?
I've known this woman for 15 years. I still haven't mustered the courage to ask her.
Thank you.
It's lose your eye. As in, ow, I just losed my eye.
I feel so embarrassed. And Suze, if you're listening, she is
sorry.
Such an asset to the hobby and incredible. And I've asked Steph, and he's like, I don't know. And I'm like, one of us need to break down and ask her and just bite the bullet and fall on the sword for the rest of us. But, again, her card chat, you can subscribe 200,000 cards in one calendar year works out to 547 cards per day if we did that over 365, or 766.28 cards if we break it down to 261 working days. 766 cards per day divided by 8 is 95.78 per hour. With 5 graders, that's 19 cards per hour each. The math works out to about 30 seconds or so spent on each card. Matt Schwartz of FCG, the CEO, came on a few weeks ago. He said they spend 5 to 10 minutes per card, depending on the card. He did say his competitors spend around 20 to 30 seconds per card, which would fall in line with this math if PSA has 5 graders working full-time each week. So you're more than welcome to...
I think they have more than 5 graders working, especially with the hiring binge they've been on over the last year and a half to 2 years.
Yeah,
I would have more than 5.
I would imagine, and that also, begs the question, which is more rhetorical: how do you become a grader? Who trains you, and how do you become an expert at it? Because I think PSA is still finding their way. Interesting insight. We kind of mentioned this earlier. Interesting insight, even if it's wrong. This came from Brian Gray, the CEO of Leaf, in regards to a comment that Dan Serbia, who had been on our show before, Dan basically said, I thought unlicensed baseball cards were bad. Minimal collectors want unlicensed card. Minimal people want collegiate cards. And that was in response to Topps talking about Bowman Next basketball. Brian's response, he says, I think you underestimate what's coming. When Fanatics takes over, logos will matter less than brands. You'll see. Please save this tweet. So it's the age-old debate of licensed versus unlicensed. Brian's predicting that logos are going to matter or less. Now, he's made predictions in the past, and although I don't have it handy, he made one about Mudrick Capital taking Topps public as a positive the same day or maybe the day before. Could have the timing off a little bit, saying this is a great move, and then Fanatics came down like 24, 48 hours later. It's like, Brian, might want to go back and delete that tweet. Whoops. But serious. Are we going to be more concerned about brands, or do logos really matter? And it goes back to what we were talking about at the top of the show about vintage. If logos matter, you piss off a lot of your core collectors. They might just say, you know what? I'm not collecting anything moving forward. I'll go back. I mean, what do we think about Brian's prediction?
I'll believe it when he puts his money where his mouth is. I mean, if he genuinely believes that logos don't matter, why doesn't he bring back Razor Baseball?
Interesting.
Because that's basically the one year that he did it. It was basically Bowman Draft without logos. Didn't do so well. Granted, that draft class was Buster Posey and a bunch of jabronis, but why does he do that again?
Logos matter. Period.
Yes.
They do greatly.
The example that I'm kind of thinking in my head is look at Lonzo Ball. Okay, his dad tried to build the Ball brand, Big Ballin' or whatever the hell it was. It was some dumb thing like that, Lonzo Ball's cards don't sell, right? If regardless of the play, if you took a Lonzo Ball card and you didn't have a logo on it, and then you put a one with the Lakers jersey, it's going to sell with the Lakers jersey every time. Logos matter because that's you identifying the player in the team that you root for, right? Like John Stockton was my hero growing up, right? That's who I watched play. I want to see John Stockton in a Utah jersey uniform. I don't want to see him without a uniform. It's not attractive to me.
Well, see, and that's the thing is I collect the Oakland A's or the A's franchise dating back to Philadelphia, but I collect the A's. I root for the laundry, not for the players. The old saying with sports, especially being an A's fan, we know how frequently their stars move teams. They never sign anybody to long-term contracts. I collect the Oakland A's, so they matter. That doesn't mean I don't not like unlicensed. I've got plenty of them. I collect those as well. I'll buy the Panini Contenders when they start, really coming out and enough street to where I'm getting them at a decent deal. I collect all the Panini stuff as well, but it's a byproduct of being a team collector. It's one facet of being a team collector. I need the logos personally, and I think a lot of people agree. You need the logo of your choice, whether it's the Toronto Blue Jays or the Lakers, et cetera, et cetera. It's important. It may not be the end all be all, but to devalue the logos that brands matter too. You know what I also collect? I also collect Topps Flagship and Gypsy Queen and Allen and Ginter and Heritage. And guess what? In 3 years, those allegedly are going away as well. So as a collector, you're going to take away my logos and my Browns and then tell me to start new with new brands, Fanatics, Flagship. I'm good. If that's where we're headed.
I agree with Chris. If logos don't matter, put your money where your mouth is. Print the product. See how good it does.
I'll tell them that tomorrow on Twitter.
Logos also bring a sense of legitimacy to a product as well.
100%.
This is real.
Well, look at your car, right? What's the difference between
rookie card without could you imagine a Larry Bird rookie card without a Boston Celtics logo on it?
What's the difference, guys, between a Kia at $12,000 and a Lexus or an Audi or a BMW at $40,000, $50,000, $60,000? You're buying that status symbol. I'm sure there's a lot underneath the hood, and I'm not a car guy, but the idea being if I need to go to the grocery store right now, that Kia is going to get me there just the same at a much lower price point. It's going to be better on insurance, probably more, gas and eco-friendly perhaps. But the bottom line is it's got an engine and it's got 4 wheels, and it's going to get me there faster than it will if I walk. The logo does matter. The Lexus matters. The BMW matters. It's better than the Ford Focus. It is. It matters. I drive a Lexus. You don't. There's that status symbol. Yeah, it offers legitimacy. Whether you care about that or not is irrelevant. We can draw analogies to other, I mean, my ex-wife, when our daughter was first born, she's like, she's only going to wear Old Navy. And I'm like, why? She's going to spit up and throw up, and she's going to get out in the yard, and she's going to throw holes in the knees and get grass stains. If I go to the Goodwill, she's going to, we all know kids grow so fast. Before you break in a pair of shoes, they're already growing out of those shoes. Why am I going to spend $10 a piece on an Old Navy outfit that I can get at Walmart for $3 when she's only going to wear it for 3 months? Cut it out. Because to my ex-wife, that Old Navy, I can't buy at Walmart. This is licensed. That's not.
Yeah. Well, can you imagine a Yankees kid who likes the Yankees, right? He watches Aaron Judge. Everybody likes that guy. He's a great guy. He's a great human being, right? A kid wants to collect Aaron Judge cards. They don't want to buy an Aaron Judge card with no logos. They want him in his pinstripes and his NY uniform. That's what that kid sees on TV. That's what he wants to hold in his hand. He wants the logo.
Yeah. Maybe you sell them on the idea of, again, I'll buy non-licensed myself personally, but I know a lot of people that flat hate it, period. They don't like it. Even a nice product like Diamond Kings Baseball. Don't like it. Why? No logos. Doesn't matter. The only time unlicensed cards really are almost non-debatable, and Chris, you can feel free to disagree, would be like the old Panini Cooperstown stuff from 7-10 years ago, whatever it was, 2012, 13, 14-ish, where they're all guys that a lot of them are dead. So they're old black and white photos. Does it really matter if you've got a picture of, Lou Gehrig with the Yankees logo, or is a good old black and white photo that says New York? Not as big of a deal.
Yeah, not really.
But so we got a couple of topics here that are going to be eBay related. This one focusing on a new alternative selling platform via Kilroyce. He had brought up a point. Again, I apologize, I'm not as quick. He says eBay's a scam. Kept negative feedback on a printing plate, which we know is a one of one because I would not replace it with a better one. They're a $1 billion company, so they don't care. I stopped selling $500,000 a year with them. We all know the countless headaches of selling on eBay, including the feedback system. Says he no longer sells. I'm sure he had other reasons besides this one isolated negative feedback. But we have ComC, Sportlots, Mercari, Twitter, Facebook, Beckett Market. I'm sure I'm missing a few. In the past, we saw pop up fly-by-night ones like Collector Revolution that lasted for 6 months and they were gone. What will it take for an e-commerce site, whether it's an existing one or a new one, to really start to break eBay's hold on as the dominant hobby market share?
If Amazon couldn't do it, I don't know who can. They tried maybe 5 or 6 years ago. I know they made a big push at the National. They sponsored the VIP tags one year. They were going after eBay and didn't work out for them. So I think the eBay brand is so powerful now. I don't know.
Yeah, it's funny because we all bitch about it. I hate buying on it. I hate selling on it. But if everybody hates it so bad, why are we doing it, right? We've all complained about movie theater prices. They're charging too much for a ticket and concessions. But we still, at least pre-COVID, would go out all the time and drop $25 on 2 tickets and $10 on a popcorn that you're not going to eat, $7 on it. We do the same thing at games. Oh, these players are being overpriced, or overpaid. Then stop going. The only reason they're being overpaid is because the revenues, the finances, the economics of these sports matter. If the owners are making the money and the players are going to make the money, stop going. If we all just say, you know what, I'm done with eBay. I'm not buying on there anymore. Sellers are going to stop selling on there, and they're going to have to go to a new platform. But it would be nice to have a platform that we could all agree on, whether it's, a Sportlots, a ComC, or these are specific hobby.
Yeah.
eBay's not. We're one part of eBay's platform. That's it. We may be a significant part on their bottom line, but we're one part. eBay is so much bigger than us. So stop. Go to ComC. Go to Sportlots. Beckett Market. Go to somewhere else. Go to Baseball Cardpedia, their new e-commerce. I don't think you guys want that kind of liability.
No. That site sucks.
eBay to me, I actually hate eBay. Obviously, I've used them to get some cards that I needed to finish some sets out because obviously it's where you're going to find the majority of what you need. But I get a lot of hate in some Facebook groups that I'm in because I'll sell a card. I won't sell a card unless I'm going to get a certain price. And it's not because to me, when I sell a card, I sell a card for what I'm willing to let that card go for. I don't give a damn about your comp. I really don't. This is what I want the card to go for. It's my card. I'll sell it at this price. If you don't want to buy it, that's fine. Don't buy it. Just keep moving. Keep going, bud. But at the same time, if it ain't worth my time, like I don't even sell a card if it ain't worth my gas. You know what I mean? I don't want to drive to the post office and have to deal with all of it. But eBay has rubbed me wrong. Their fees are so enormous to me that I actually do more of my 90% of stuff I sell is in Facebook groups. And I think ComC is a great platform. It's just not known. I mean, it's known to us, but it's not known to the new people. They need it. utilize it. And I think COMC is going to give eBay a run for their money. But but when you look at COMC, and this is just my opinion, it's not visually eye-appealing like eBay is.
Done. Sport lots, we know, is living in the HTML world. They are extremely antiquated. You can't see pictures of them, so you go buy, one of your vintage cards. I was buying some 1969 O-Pee-Chee A's, and what is good condition? What is fair condition? I bought a 72 Ken Holtzman, I believe it was, O-Pee-Chee, and it came, and my word, it looked like it had went through a meat grinder. It was all kinds of bent, and I went back and I'm like, what did I buy? And it was super cheap. It was like 50 cents. And normally I wouldn't care about condition, and I don't care about vintage condition. Just give me one. That's all I want. I just want one. But man, I had to replace that one because it was just nasty. And I would have known had I saw the picture. So I think it's going to take, if Master P wants to get involved, good for him. Instead of doing a grading company, come up with an e-commerce site with all your other rich people. If he can't do it, financially, or doesn't want to, leverage himself or put that liability solely on him financially as an investor and advisor, compete with eBay. It's going to take somebody with some serious resources like him that are willing to dedicate it. And guess what? Much like we talked about Fanatics, you're taking some off the top. Do 10% flat, 8% flat, because you're going to make up the money in volume. Where eBay loses focus is they don't care about the average seller. They're just looking at it like, how much where's that market cap? 15%? Can we squeeze 16%? 17, going once, going twice. I think if you got some serious money together in this hobby, you'd have a very serious, perhaps somebody buys COMC, an established marketplace, and then takes it to the next level. But,
Well, Jeff, your buddy Jeff might be one of those guys to do that.
Hey, if he can, he can. If he's got the resources and he's got the know-how, whether he knows it personally. And a lot of times, and I've said this before, right? President of the United States doesn't have to be the smartest person in the room. They just have to know how to allocate and delegate to smart people in the field, right? And that's the thing, is if a guy like Jeff has the resources, he doesn't have to be the guy to create the platform and this and that. If he can hire the right people, I'm all for it if it creates a better hobby at the end of the day. And by the way, he now has a disclaimer apparently at the beginning of his videos talking about how this is not actual advice, investing advice. Allegedly. I don't watch his videos, but that's... So Matt Saltzman, eBay police. He put out... eBay really needs to figure out a way to eliminate this kind of garbage from their platform. He tweeted out a reprint listing with a fake PSA slab. My first thought was, how does he know it's a fake PSA slab? Well, the item description literally says, this is not real. The card in this PSA case is a reprint. The PSA slab is a reprint. This is an exact replica as if you had the real PSA 10 version. The back of the card and slab are blank. If you want it permanently close the PSA slab, you'll need special tools, et cetera, et cetera. How did he know? Well, the guy admits to it. So, Blowout Buzz brought up a good point in the thread. If it's listed as a reprint, it infers or implies authorization from the IP holder. This is not a reprint. It's counterfeit. I mean, plain and simple. We don't need to really go into a lot of depth. It's, eBay needs to figure out. I don't know how they can do it. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts, but this is the kind of crap.
It's going to be the IP holders that crack down. And I don't know. They seem like they have other things to do than go after individual IP holders. But if Eric Clapton can go after a guy, I don't know if you read this, but he sued like someone for like selling a copy of one of his albums, and he sued him and then got $10,000 worth of damages for selling a $12 CD. So,
yeah, I saw the post that you're referring to, and when you look at that PSA holder, you'll notice right here. So when I look at a PSA, if you actually hold them up into the light and look at them, you'll actually see a bunch of squiggly lines right here, the white labeling. I think they call that the White House label or whatever. You could clearly see that was fake. So
yeah. No, it's again, be careful what you're buying. The seller did clearly say in their description what it was, so you know, at least based on the description. The question isn't whether or not he was being truthful. The thing is, it never should have went there. It's not a reprint. It's it's a recreation, and without permission, that's called a counterfeit.
Counterfeit.
We can reprint $20 bills in our garage, right?
You're gonna go do it though,
right? Because the federal government has things in place to where they're going to crack down if you're using counterfeit bills. Paul Lesko has said it's on, like Chris said, it's on, the onus is on the IP holder. It's actually their responsibility to protect their IP. But like Chris also said, the people that own these IPs perhaps are busier at the moment dealing with other things, whether it's Topps, Panini, or even perhaps,
the
PSA
sports
in this
leagues.
case. Yeah, I mean,
too.
Yeah,
their logos.
Yeah, and baseball might just say, you know what, Topps, this is your job. You go fix this. One last topic I got for you guys. eBay. This was kind of interesting. I don't know if you guys snipe. You might see some of this stuff if you are snipers. This guy named J_Updegraph. Hey, ask eBay, how does it work that I win an auction, verified, and pick one for this card, and then I didn't win at the same time and pick two? He bid on a 2021 Topps Chrome Black Jared Kelenic green out of 99. The first screenshot shows him winning, says you won the auction, $107.50, 14 bids. The second screenshot shows him losing the auction with a final sales price of $125, 15 bids. I mean, have you guys ever seen this? I mean, eBay, before we talk about it, Ask eBay did respond saying, can you DM information so they can look more into it? But I'm assuming he lost the auction. Have you guys seen anything like this before?
The only thing I've ever seen similar to that, and I hate to admit this, but sometimes I have to go to PWCC to get some of the cards that I need. I know on PWCC, when you're doing a bid, if I bid on a card first and then we both hit the max bid, same amount, so $50, whatever it is, if I did the bid first, it'll still show the other guy that bid $50, he's won it, but I actually won that card because I bid it first. So he thinks he's won, but he hasn't. This might be the same thing on the eBay side of it, but I've never seen that on eBay. Only on PWC.
The web page could be coded that if you hit the button to place the bid with 1 second left, it'll then show that you may have won the bid, but you're so far away from the server that someone living a little closer to where eBay servers is may have, at the exact same time you did, hit the button to place the bid and got the same screen. And then 20 seconds later, it rectifies that the guy closer to the server actually got his bid in first. So
interesting. If anybody out there listening has had this happen to them, or perhaps knows more of the technical side of this, would love a little bit more information. Just definitely interesting to see. I'll try to reach out to the guy and see what eBay's resolution was. I again can't show videos, but this one was definitely funny. If you saw the video, it's about a 7-second spot. Hit up at Certified Cards on Twitter. There's a breaker that opened up a card. Unfortunately, he got it wrong. It was a Jazz Chisholm Miami Marlins redemption, and he does the slow, pulls it down. It literally says the player's name and the player's team, and it's out of the 2021 Topps Rookie Cup. So you're opening a baseball product, and the breaker calls him Jazz Grissom of the Miami Dolphins. So he literally has the name in front of him. Okay. close enough. But the Miami Dolphins, not the Marlins. I mean,
Miami has a baseball team?
They do, apparently.
Really?
According to this video, I saw it on
do?
screen. I saw it. I don't know if that guy saw it. That's just, to me, that was funny.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, come on, man.
I saw that clip too. So
Yeah, it's a funny. At Certified Cards has it. You know, most of us have either commented on it, quote tweeted it, retweeted it. You know, so it's out there if you want to go take a look at it. Next week is obviously our final week of the year. We're going to do a year in review. We're going to have Dub Mentality on. We also have Jeff Soxie the first week of January on the 5th. Doug Caskey of Mojo Break on the 12th of January. I don't have a last name for him, so I do apologize. Matt at Parkside Cards. They've got female soccer cards, a new manufacturer. He'll be coming on January 19th. Nick Wasika is scheduled on January 26th. So if you have any questions for any of the upcoming guests, please reach out. Do you guys have any final thoughts before we get out of here for the night?
it's way past my bedtime.
It is. You got anything?
It's 1:00 out here, so.
You got anything, Dewey, before we get out of here?
No, I mean, yeah, I just want everybody to know, you know, I love this hobby. I'm not trying to be a negative Nancy at all. I just, I've been around for a while and I've seen a lot, and it's just kind of, it's crazy for me to see the way things have changed, and maybe I'm just not ready to accept it yet.
Hey, there's plenty of room on my lawn if you guys need to pull up a lawn chair. You know, bring your own drink, of course. But again, like we mentioned earlier, it's just a reflection of where we're at in the hobby. Our show was not always this negative. The hobby was not always this negative. Most of us can attest to that. A lot more enjoyment. A lot of us are suffering from levels of hobby fatigue, and that's just because the way the hobby has pushed us. So hopefully in the next year or two, those of us that are still around, next 3-5 years, things will change. I mean, a lot of things are for right now, not forever. So hopefully this is just a time frame that we can look back on and reflect upon. And social media and the internet has obviously given us a lot bigger voices. And we didn't have that back in the Junk Wax era. You know, maybe you heard it, saw it around town, but we're isolated to your town. So remember, we're live every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific on YouTube, 10 Central. You can make sure to subscribe and review our show on all platforms. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at About the Cards. You follow me at Our Trading Cards. Chris, where can we find you?
At StaleVim on Twitter. And you could also check out my side project, which is baseballcardpedia.com. And about once a month or so, I'm on Hobby Hotline, which is Saturday mornings and Tuesday nights. Throw it in the Google machine if you don't know about it.
All right. And then, Dewey, where can we find you?
Find me on Twitter, DirtyDeets529. Follow me. I put some stuff on there. I finished my 61 Fleer set, and my next goal now is going to be building a 1957. So
nice. When it's done, you'll have to come on and share that with us. So, and of course, you can also follow Stefan. Best wishes to him. Hopefully, his tummy is better. At Junk Wax Twins. Please share your hobby stories, great pulls. Send your questions our way. Let us know what you got for Christmas if you got anything. We'd love to see it next week. So until then, Merry Christmas and Happy Holiday. Be safe this weekend, and we'll see you next week.
appreciate you.